Adrian Ford, not to be mistaken with Audrey Ford. I don't want her own ballots. I like some of my own. Right. So if all of the judges are ready. Thank you. Now if all the judges are ready. Great. And the timer? All right, let's go and get started. Let me tell you, one of the scariest things that my mother has ever done to me was she knew that I already did something, and yet she still asks me if I did it. A prime example of this is when she baked a fresh batch of cookies, and she said, Adrian, you can have one cookie. Might have taken 5 cookies. And she already knew I took the cookies, and yet she asked. She already knew I had done it. My mom, my little brain couldn't perceive the fact that my mom already knew that I did something. Now, clearly my young mind didn't notice that there was 5 empty spots of cookies instead of 1. It was pretty clear, but my little mind couldn't perceive the fact that she already knew. See, young Adrian thought that my mom had limitless knowledge, that she knew everything before it even happened, before I even admitted it. Now, today, that mindset of limitless knowledge is what we're going to be addressing as I look to the topic of defining and defending the significance of the omniscience of God. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'll be doing this in 3 points. My first point will be, defining what is omniscience. My second point, I'll be showing why it's so important, the significance of it. And thirdly, I'll be showing the peace that it gives us. And I hope to address the overarching idea that when we know that God is omniscient, then we know and it will give us peace. That is the overarching idea that I'll be addressing as we go through this speech. So let's go and jump right into my first point. What is omniscience? Well, the biblical scholar Caleb Cawley stated that omniscience is basically the fact that God is the only one who possesses limitless knowledge. That is what omniscience truly is. And the omniscience of God is the fact that He is the only one who possesses said limitless knowledge. Now, the Illustrated Oxford Dictionary defines omniscience as knowing everything. Now, the Bible certainly ascribes to the omniscience of God. Now, let's consider an example of what the Bible reveals about God's omniscience in Proverbs 15:3. Proverbs 15:3 states that the eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. We can see right here that God is omniscient. He knows everything because, He sees it all happen. He sees it when it happens, before we even know it's going to happen. God is there, God is watching, and God knows. So, now that we know a little bit about omniscience, we obviously know the definition of omniscience. Let's go ahead and go a little more in depth in looking at the importance. We know that omniscience means limitless knowledge, but you may be thinking, great, Adrian, that's great, limitless knowledge, but why should I care? Why is it so important to know about the omniscience of God? Well, that's my second point. Let's go ahead and jump right in there now. Jeremiah 29:11 states, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." Now this verse right here describes and explains very clearly why it's so important. It's important to know that God is all-knowing so He can know everything about you, and He will never forget you. He always knows what you need, when you need it, and where you need it. In fact, Psalm 147:5 states, "Great is our Lord and mighty in power. His understanding is infinite." God truly knows everything, and that is an acclaim to His great, mighty power. And because of that, it is important to know that because of that fact, God will never forget us. In fact, Matthew 10:30 states, "The very hairs on your head are numbered by God." That is how much God cares about each and every one of us. And the fact that He will never forget about us is very clearly demonstrated through these verses. He knows how many hairs are on our head. If that's not limitless knowledge, I really don't know what is. But really the fact of this limitless knowledge, it's very important to know because He will never forget us. And that gives us peace. And that is my third and my final point, addressing the fact that it will give us peace. Matthew 10:29 Matthew chapter 10, verses 29 through 30 states, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs on your head are all numbered." What this verse is getting at, this section of verses is getting at, is that God knows the 2 sparrows. He knows that they're sold for a penny, and yet He still doesn't forget about us. That is how great God truly is. Corrie ten Boom once stated that we must never be afraid to trust an unknown future to an all-knowing God. Corrie ten Boom, in this quotation, we can clearly see that she found the Prince of Peace, and that gave her peace. Now, it may be hard to understand the limitless knowledge of God, but that is yet another testimony to the greatness of Him. For as the philosopher Voltaire stated, a God that can be understood is no God at all. That is yet again another testimony to the almighty power of God. So today we've looked at what omniscience is. We've seen the importance of omniscience, and we've seen, finally wrapping it up, that because of all of it, it will give us peace. And that is the ultimate thing that we need to look at when we talk about the omniscience. So much like my mom already knew that I've taken the cookies, God will know everything about us, and that will give us peace. Thank you very much.